The highest majority of altcoins see the highest returns and rocket as Bitcoin is pushing into new highs, surpassing the previous cycle. What's going on, guys? Kevin Cage here with another crypto update. Hope everyone's doing well, and we got a bunch to dive into today. In today's video, we're going to dive into Bitcoin specifically. If you hold any other altcoin, this video is super important to understand, even if you hold XRP. We're going to dive a lot into XRP, HBAR, Casper, Algo in future videos, but this one is centered around Bitcoin and the importance of it reaching an all-time high price. Whether we like it or not, we have 10 years of price history, and every single time XRP has experienced an all-time high price, it was when Bitcoin was at an all-time high price. The majority of the altcoin market is not decoupled from Bitcoin. Every cycle we see some leaders, we see some laggards, but for the most part, the biggest moves in the entire asset class, if you hold altcoins, is when Bitcoin is pushing into an all-time high. So that's what we're focused on today. I hope you enjoy this one and be sure to watch all of it. So we can see Bitcoin is nearing 42,000. We're having this golden cross actually come into play for that continuation, which is great to see, reaching the 50% Fibonacci retracement. So as we zoom in here, you can see we're exactly on that 50% retracement right around 42,000. And just for reference from previous cycles, we have 2013, we have 2016 in the bear market before the bull run, and then 2020. Each time we got a full weekly candle, the wick and the body included, closing over the 50% retracement, we have headed to an all-time high price. So we can see Bitcoin cycle high to cycle low, closing above the 50% Fibonacci retracement, blasting off to the 4.236, even up to the 34. 2016 cycle high to low, poking above the 50%, little bit of a fake out. If you look closely, that is not the full candle body, or wick. Came back down to the 382, and once we got back above this level with a full close, we headed to an all-time high price. In 2020, same thing. You can see we retraced candle bodies 1, 2, 3, 4, multiple weeks opening and closing exactly on the 50%. Even though we wicked to the 618, we never closed above. And these candle bodies were retesting those candle bodies as well. So back in 2019, leading to March 2020 Black Swan event, and then we started climbing upward. After the Bitcoin halving in May 2020, we had the full first close above the 50% and went into an all-time high price. So looking at it today, and this is an old chart that I shared on Twitter a while ago, we're right around 42K today. We have not closed above by any means, but that's something to consider. I know after this bear market, sentiment is pretty 50-50 if we are just going to be drawing another crash, go back into reaccumulation, continue this bear market longer, or if we're actually following a similar structure that we saw in 2016 before a bull run. So Bitcoin, each cycle we are seeing diminishing returns. 2013, from the high to the low, we went up to the 34 fib extension, part of the Fibonacci sequence. 2016, we went up to the 8, maybe even the 13 above. And the last cycle didn't go up to the 8 Fibonacci extension like the previous, it's getting lower and lower. Although the market cap for Ethereum and Bitcoin reached a 4.236, for the most part, it was a double top at the 3618. So I definitely believe that Bitcoin heads to an all-time high price regardless, but I don't think we're going to go further above that 3618 like we saw previously. Anywhere between the 127 to even 2618, this whole area to me makes a lot more sense. So looking at the Bitcoin price chart, we have retraced to the 50% retracement, sitting perfectly on this as we're recording, and that's great to see, but that is not the only consideration. In the future or coming weeks, I want to see full candle bodies above that level before I can even entertain, are we going to an all-time high price? And we can see Bitcoin in this ascending channel for the past probably 7 weeks or so. We can see it's moved about 50% plus, almost 60%. Now if we're following 2016, the weekly RSI stays up, there is a chance we could go much higher. But if you're somebody that doesn't think we are following that 2016 pattern and we're actually going to be crashing again like previous cycles during a retracement, falling back down to 35K at the fair value gap and the CME gap, or even the bottom of this channel, would be absolutely nasty. But the big picture for long-term investors is we are not in the red, we are nowhere near our cycle top. So whether you think we're somewhere around here or even a big retracement before going back into reaccumulation, we are another day out of the cycle. And considering the number of days counting these cycles from the high of the oscillator when it was at an all-time high, we're actually now over the 1,000 day mark. So if we even took as long as this previous bear market to break into new all-time highs, that would still occur by late summer of 2024, if you were to follow this cycle, which I understand every single cycle is different, but I still want to study history to see what's happened in the past. And even the altcoin market is in a very interesting spot, as you can see, poking into overbought where momentum is at a high. It's still entirely possible that we can reject this level and fall back down a little longer and delay the bull run. But if we really break through here with the altcoin market, show some strength, and the RSI goes up, it's looking like the next cycle, meaning the next bull run. And the reason why I'm a lot more bullish for 2024, and I could be wrong, it could be pushed back to 2025, but let me show you why. So we have total 3. This is the entire market cap of all crypto assets excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. We can see last cycle from the all-time high price until breaking into a new all-time high price, it took over 1,100 days. So far for this bear market, it's been almost 750 days. And even just roughly measuring here when we were in accumulation before actually taking out that high, we can see we didn't really break out for over 800 days down at the lows. In present day, we're still clearly in accumulation. We've taken out this high, but we have yet to take out this previous high and actually close above this purple rectangle. And even just loosely measuring this to see where we're at today, we're at 574 days. 800 plus days would still take us into 2024, not 2025. Some people may think that by comparing the moving averages, we could be somewhere up here before a big pullback and continue the bear market a little bit longer before getting that recovery. Or instead of being right there, we're actually here and we're getting this show on the road. So we have the Bitcoin price chart, and let's actually just look at years ago of price history. I remember this like it was yesterday when Bitcoin crashed during the last bear market and crashed 83, almost 84%. We were around $3,000 to $4,000 at these lows. If you were on Twitter saying you're bullish for different assets or altcoins to push into new highs, you were crazy. Prices started moving up, getting people excited, some alts even followed, and then boom, another massive crash. Bitcoin is back under $4,000 and closing candles around $5,000. The investors that bought altcoins during their March 2020 low or their cycle low were seen as lunatics. And the bear market was so brutal, even if you talked about Bitcoin going past 20K, you were crazy. And look what history brought. Instead of going past 20K, we went to 69,000. So now today, if you say Bitcoin even surpasses 80K or 6 figures, you're crazy. You don't have to believe it, we can go to 80,000 just as easily as Bitcoin can go right back down to 20K. But it's important to know the numbers and just know the possibilities and understand anything is possible. I posted this 2 days ago looking at Bitcoin's current circulating supply and what would Bitcoin's price be at different market caps. So in 2021, it reached this level. Its all-time high market cap was over $1 trillion at $1.29 trillion. If we hit that level again, Bitcoin would be close to 66K. We can see at a $1 trillion market cap, that would be 51,000. So for every $1 trillion in market capitalization, Bitcoin's price would have to go up over 50,000. For the bearish people out there, a $500 billion market cap would be about 25K, and then all the way down to even a $5,000 Bitcoin for a $100 billion market cap. The thing about black swans is anything is possible. 2022 alone reminded me of that. But if we did have any crazy black swans or liquidation events, I just want to remind you how quickly those types of prices are typically bought back up. And for a 6-figure Bitcoin or a $100,000 Bitcoin, that would require a $2 trillion market cap. Bitcoin reached over $1 trillion, Ethereum reached over $500 billion at $570 billion. And if Bitcoin were ever to reach a 6-figure Bitcoin, which may seem crazy now, but in the scheme of things it's not, a $2 trillion market cap, is that crazy? No, and I highly recommend watching the first half of the video I uploaded right before this. This will go through a lot related to the cycles, and I think there's some really interesting stats in there. If Bitcoin reached a $2 trillion market cap, Ethereum would have the chance to even reach $1 trillion. And if the altcoin market last cycle's high when the volume flows every few years into this asset class, it reached over $1 trillion all on its own. So in theory, do you think we can break into new highs and actually reach some of these golden extensions or even a $2 trillion market cap? And then I also added a $3 trillion market cap just to visually see that, and that is over 150,000. We got a little pump for Bitcoin. Now Bloomberg is predicting Bitcoin to rally to $500,000. I would like to bet all my Bitcoin, which isn't much, that we don't reach that this cycle. So back in September, I posted this just highlighting the open fair value gap and the CME gap at 35K as well as the weekly R1 at 39K. We can see yesterday that Bitcoin, after a 200 plus day range, finally closed and even reached the weekly R1. It's currently above that level today. And I'm pointing out that weekly R1 or the monthly R1, which is the same level, because we have hit the R1 or at least wicked to that level before every single halving for the last 3 times. So these are the 3 Bitcoin halvings in history, and now for the 4th time we have hit that level. So even at the beginning of this year, we were talking about that R1 level and the 50% retracement going before the halving. I thought it was going to happen in the summer. Looks like we got it in December, but we're still waiting for the big move for alts. And my last point regarding Bitcoin on the monthly time frame, we have on this chart over 10 years of price history and multiple cycles. So every time we have seen the monthly RSI, this oscillator down here, pierce through this purple, go into white, into 70, overbought, the momentum is at an all-time high. Every time it is in the white, we have gone to all-time high prices. So we have a cycle here. Bear market, multi-year, big cup. Breaking out again, new all-time high. Another bear market, giant cup, but we got more of a retracement last cycle. I also have an alert on that level if we can break through that level. And then, once we broke through again, all-time high price. So per the position of the monthly RSI, it looks really good for 2024. And if you're somebody that thinks, nah, this is too good to be true, we're going to retrace, I still believe Bitcoin creates another all-time high price, and once we pierce this level, we're likely going to be at all-time highs. And even zooming in or just going down to the weekly, I completely get if you think it's going to take longer, and it takes well after 2025, which is possible if we fall back down, trend sideways, and then an all-time high much later. The point being is, regardless, I believe that Bitcoin creates another all-time high price in the future. And why do we care about all-time high prices? Because that's historically when the alts have the highest chance and shot for a return on investment and have a higher rate of return than even Bitcoin. We're still in a largely unregulated market. Bitcoin is king, the store of value. It was here first. Ethereum was born, gave birth to DeFi. a variety of ecosystems, and we've been growing ever since. Without infrastructure and custody fully in place, we're seeing it happen today. We're seeing billions of dollars of funds being tokenized as well, like Aberdeen, which has tokenized over $20 billion this year. I have to read the most recent article because it might be up now. But without all of this infrastructure fully in place and regulated, institutional money won't touch it. They will not have the benefits of tokenization and interoperability until all of this is properly set in place and liquidity is better. So crypto is a highly speculative market. That can be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because it brings some of the highest asymmetric returns in the space. Investor emotions is the Wild West, and it can offer those 10, 100x returns during a bull run. So speculative markets during a bull run, yeah, they're the best thing ever. But during a bear market, speculation is terrible, and we can see those 90% crashes. So I believe this coming bull run, whenever it actually takes place and Bitcoin pushes into a new all-time high price, this could be the last big bull run without actual regulatory frameworks that are more so widely adopted, meaning that this could have the biggest level of opportunity. And why do we care for Bitcoin to reach an all-time high price or push into an all-time high price is because historically, the highest number of alts, not the exception of a few leaders that we see every cycle, the highest majority of altcoins see the highest returns and rocket as Bitcoin is pushing into new highs, surpassing the previous cycle. So we know Bitcoin from its cycle low did a 20x to its all-time high, whereas HBAR from its cycle low did a 60x. So we know that altcoins historically have a better rate of return, and there were other small caps with smaller supplies that did 100x, even 400x. The last cycle in 2020, Bitcoin had its halving and then quickly retraced 100%. During the same period, there were altcoins like HBAR pumping 50%, crashing 50%, going sideways for 200 plus days. The week that we saw Bitcoin pushing into an all-time high price, surpassing its previous high just under 20K in 2017, so taking out the previous cycle high, that is when we saw alts absolutely rocket. As Bitcoin is pushing, a few weeks later, HBAR drew a 1200% even from that date. Technically higher if we measure down here, so well over a 13x versus Bitcoin into an all-time high over 200%. So looking at history, understanding the behavior of different assets previous cycles is super important. Because during this period, Bitcoin returns 100% or even 200% and your asset is crashing or doing nothing, most investors that are new to the market are going to panic or then flip-flop, maybe buying an altcoin that just did a 10x, which has less upside than others that have yet to even go, instead of just sitting on your hands and being patient. So there's always a possibility Bitcoin just retraces and crashes back down, delays the bull run. But when we see Bitcoin at an all-time high price, that is the time when I'm actually going to be very, very bullish and take some big chances. Because that's the same thing I witnessed over the previous 2 cycles. There's a time to play it safe, maybe accumulate at the lows, and that's during a bear market when things are boring, the market is fearful. But for me, there's a time to have those high levels of conviction and take some big plays, and that is as Bitcoin is pushing into an all-time high, and that is where you should be super confident in a variety of assets, specifically the legitimate ones, but even meme coins absolutely rocket during this time. So whether we see it in 2024 or after, we are another day closer.